Hello, hello. Good time of day, everyone. So, this one's going to be a little different because, unlike most of the other solo RPGs I look at, this isn't technically a solo RPG. But we'll get into that in a second. Let me go to the main screen. So, I've made a few updates to the screen, though not sure on what ordering I should do, but it's more than what I've had before. Actually, you could probably go down an inch. No, you don't want to? Okay, fine. So, this is Wraith. I say that as I smack the actual physical book because I generally prefer to get physical books because I don't trust that my PC or every service that carries the PDFs will be around in 6 months. So, Wraith was a Kickstarter campaign a while ago by somebody who's done some OSR books that I have purchased before, mostly micro settings and a few other ones. I think they currently have one going. I might as well, 1 second, I'm going to look that up because I brought it up. Enjoy the keyboard ASMR. Let's see if I cannot find that campaign. Yes, Mana Meltdown, which is their current one, which is, has just ended a while ago. Did it succeed? Yep, okay, it succeeded. As it was put, Mana Meltdown is a psionic dark fantasy battle royale adventure. But I believe it had some various things I wanted in there. Mostly random tables. So I grabbed it. But anyways, so as I was saying, Wraith is not a solo RPG, but it is a toolkit for one for generating, as they put it, Wavecrawls. I'll get into in a second what that means, but it's your basic OSR type of book, which means that it's compatible largely with first and to an extent second edition D&D. Usually they go off of the red box first edition D&D, but given that it's mostly the same, it's, well, mostly the same. Adds a few classes. I'll even bring them up once. Adds the Wind Mage class because, well, this is unironically a Wavecrawl. Winds kind of are helpful. And a bunch of other nautical type things. But that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in what literally is seemingly about half the book, which is generating your setting. It has a few... Well, its introduction, as I had kind of put in here, is that it is something of a post-apocalyptic water world. Hence, well, the Scrivener, as I put it. I didn't make the tomato big enough. And I probably didn't make the pot look like what the pot should be. But, setting introduction. I'm not going to read all of it because it's like about an entire page at a font size. Few survived the Great Flood and most knowledge was lost. Strange new cultures developed scattered across islands, isolated from each other. They hang on by a thin thread of life in the new ocean world. Artifacts and constructs from ages past can no longer be repaired. Many now doubt mortals even built such things. The gods are dead. Leviathans dwell in the broken and submerged throne rooms of the Forgotten Kings below. So, don't know if you could say it's post-apocalyptic entirely, or if it could even be like medieval post-apocalyptic, which, unironically, most of history is a post-apocalypse from the previous golden era. So you could go with it either way, like either there's skyscrapers down there, or just they've went from iron back to bronze. Now, how to use this book for its actual toolkit, they have right on page 2. They have 3 levels of getting started. One is a quick start where basically you roll one island and then you go with that. The second, it also has like a scenario with it. The second is pretty much the same except you get the island template, you get your ship, and then you start going about to your next place. The third one is what I want to do, the long start, which goes into generating the entire ocean. And let me just get to there. I need a little more room on this table. That can go off for now. World generation overview. Seas and boundaries. Generate seas and decide on the boundary types dividing them. This step will give you a zoomed out large-scale themes and empty world map. During the stage, you can also generate trade winds and ocean currents, which will be important macro factors for determining trade routes, travel, and connections between islands later. You can see why this is a very interesting little toolkit. It actually has trade winds in it. Each sea will have a different cataclysmic seed, setting a clock ticking that will eventually seal its terrible broken fate, unless the players intervene. Morkborg, to which I truly enjoy its ideas. It reminds me of the oh, I forget what they're called at the moment. But there is a tick down that's supposed to have things happen across the world that the DM is not in control of. This has a similar thing, except the players are able to stop it because, you know, it is not a desperate, terrible world that is on the edge of destruction. So anyways, island distribution. Create a scattering of different sized islands across your seas. This will help fill in the details of your map. And think about positioning them in relation to the currents and trade winds. It's up to you to what density of islands you want, and this can vary from sea to sea. Key islands and trade routes. And then another one, factions and cataclysms. So this game, this toolkit, generates the interesting parts. The Sin Knows series also, Sin Noise? Without name. Series, or without number, series also does similar, and that's what I really like about them. But this also has it too, and I'll get into it a bit because it has an interesting one on there. So anyways, let us begin. So I need something to weigh this down as I look for the proper dice, because I do need D20s for this. And I only have D6s and D10s out at the moment. Or is it literally a D9 that it's going with? Because I swear it was 2 pages. Oh, I feel like they're missing something here. 22, 23? Nope. It's only a D9 for this. Okay, that's fine. They didn't go into too into depth. But anyways, weighing this down using a D10. I know it's D20 for the actual Cs, which we'll get to in a... Or the actual... Not the overall. This is the sea archetype page, which has the name of our sea, which is our entirety of our world, the Leviathan that is going about the entire sea of this, the cataclysm, and the description. One second, let me just look at it. And the description of the sea. So let's begin. I will actually make a page to keep track of this. 512, 512, good enough. Turn off grid so it isn't so eye bleed. And we'll put it on here as sea name. This is the overall one. Sea Leviathan. Now, I will say they don't actually give the stats unless it is in there later. But for mooks and stuff, they do give stats. So, I generally like it when they try to give stats instead of just, you know, go find something and work with it. So, let's begin. Our first roll gives us 4. The Afflicted Artery Abyss. Well, that's a name. Okay, what is our Sea Leviathan? 4. Same row, actually. The Necrotic Magna Pina kills anything it deems ugly or uninterested. Composed of exposed veins. Actually, I think you're supposed to go across the line. Whoops, wrong button. Okay. Number 7. I'm just going to roll each of them separately, but the Cataclysm. Masses of monstrous life forms are animated by the Hydra, which... Oh, okay. Nope, it is definitely across the line. Survivors refuse trade with those above them, delving and digging deeper until they are all crushed by sea pressures. Okay. Oh, this is the Cataclysm that's ongoing. The ongoing thing that you're trying to stop. And small handful of haunted islands. Okay, I always get confused when they have the roll tables and they don't exactly say that, oh, it's only one roll and not like, you know, a dozen and you mix and match. Though you could mix and match. Anyway, a small sea of only a handful of haunted islands on its surface. It is far deeper than any other sea, with most life living vertically in underwater complexes in the dark layers below. Survivors are hated and obvious and overly individualistic, introspective, and prone to drama. So, that's it. I'm going to pick a kind of purplish color for the water. Yeah, that might be a little too dark. Let's change the hue a little bit, please. Thank you. Okay. Sea boundaries. Due to how the world has changed during the Cataclysm, it has become magically fractured. Because of this, there are different options for the boundaries between seas. You can either stick to one scenario or mix them and match them. And it gives a few of these. But technically, every single one of these could be its own scenario that you have a connection to. That's what's trying to get to it. Now, world map, sea distribution, currents, and trade winds. If you're using multiple seas, make copies of the map to the left and fill up names and put them next to each other. I already have my own map. Currents. It is recommended you create at least 4 thin lines snaking through the sea hexes. 1 for each cardinal directions. These will be the current linking seas, aquatic highways across your world. Ships travel at double speed with the currents or at average speed traveling against the wind. If traveling against the wind. So let's do that. Let's have trade winds. I'll only do a D10 and we'll work with that to pick the lines. Okay, so east or west to east current is going to be on line 5. Yeah, let's get out the D20. 1 second. I'm not even sure if I have 20 on here, but it should be more than enough. 1 second, I just dropped all my dice. It must have got kicked around a little bit. All the things popped out. Okay. We're good now. Now then, a D20. Let's go with the gold one. So 4 will be a west to east. So 1, 2. Let's go with just this row instead of halving it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So something along this thing will be that trade wind, or will be that current. Let's roll a little higher. Okay, a 10 sounds fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Be that one. And now north to south will be 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So something along here. There's no exact science with it. And for the last one, 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, oh wait, 19, 18, 16, or 19, 18, 17. And we'll just make this go a little ways out. And that is our that. And now the trade winds. Ships travel at double speed when sailing with the wind. Regular speed perpendicular and half speed when sailing against the wind. Roll 4-sided die with each sea to determine its trade winds. Place 2 arrows on opposite sides of the sea in the direction determined by the results. For example, if a 2 is rolled, it'll look like this. So, a D4. Well, I have a... Let's roll a D6 until I get something. Okay, 4. West-east. Okay. Let's go with a lighter blue. So how they're depicting it on here with one that is going northeast is that they pick the corner and then they go, that's going this way and then that's going this way. So I guess we pick a spot on here. Where's my D20? 10. Let's just say about in the middle. So the trade wind, that, like that. Good enough. Okay. That's the least interesting parts of it, but it's very good for trade. And now to make the first sea. So we have the archetype of the sea, which is the afflicted artery abyss, which has some weird necrotic thing, and people are trying to stay off the surface because it's well haunted and terrible. We got our currents, we got our trade winds, we got our Leviathan. Now, make a copy of our template. We aren't going to do that at the moment. Use the archetype for page 22 to customize and using ideas. Already did that. Use the details to fill out your seed template and help you page reference. Make a copy of the one on 25, yada yada. Draw a number of circles in the hexes to represent blank islands equal to the desired island density. Well, it was said to be not too dense. So I'm just going to pick a few spots on here with the 20, 18, so somewhere down here, and 14, so a little bit over here. I'm going to choose brown. So about right here. Let's do about 5 of these. 11, so in the middle. 9, so a little like right about here. 9, once again, kind of in the middle. 17, so about right here. Just eyeballing it, it doesn't need to be an exact science. 1 and 14, right about here, and let's say one more. And these are groups of islands. These are not. Okay. So we got our islands there. Continue the island generation chapter to begin labeling and detailing your key islands before moving on to remaining islands. Oh, Sparse Sea says 15 islands. Well, I'm saying that these are a little bigger and that there's a couple in there. Let's just we'll just stay with here. I don't need to detail them all. I'm not going to be here for 4 hours. But anyways. Here's the page I was remembering. Yeah, this kind of had me confused because I guess they already had the scenarios over there if you didn't want to have it. But then they had another page with names on there that I guess you just kind of can pick and choose, but the cataclysm you have to come up with. Which I guess is kind of fitting, but since we already have the name in the Leviathan, let's go for the scarce resource. 16, birds and eggs. So whatever scarce resource. Scarce. So birds and eggs. And this fits in with the surface is kind of dead. And people are like literally trying to start like moving down into the water, into the depths, because it's away from whatever is going on, and that probably killed most of the birds. Therefore, not too many eggs. And the climate and tone, I think we already have the climate and tone. Well, actually, no, we don't. Let's roll. 2, sweltering, intense light, dangerous boiling sea spots. Interesting. So whatever major cataclysm that created an undead surface also boiled parts of the sea that just, they randomly come to a boil, like it got flash fried. You know, in some Pulp Fiction, it would basically like the sun, something weird happened to the sun, and it, or a meteor is going around and it's radioactive or something, and therefore the surface has had this. But anyways. So also, they have, I'm not going to put this down, but you're supposed to also mark the depth of your hexes, and technically this ocean's supposed to be really deep. So I won't go through it all, but they, sorry, I'm looking at this. They give you some things like saying how many of these hexes should be in like a... You should have 10 hexes for like at least an underwater trench. You know what? I think I'll put the trench in because this world's supposed to be all about going down. But I'll make the trench a little bigger, and I think I'll use more than 10 hexes for that. But it's a prominent thing. So let me just roll 11, so somewhat in the middle. And then 11. So cutting across basically the middle of this. Let me once again ruin my book. Yep, I hit enter. Can you go away? Thank you. We have the Necrotic Trench, which basically sits above this one trade route, which may or may not, or one current, which may or may not be a good thing. It's probably also why there is a trade, or a current here. It just completely bisects the map, and I think since we're supposed to have some interesting spots, the hole. A just gigantic Mariana Trench that is huge. And you can assume that it basically radiates from there, and then you have, like, this is a cliff. There is no shallows near this. And these are the more normal islands over here. Now, I won't go into the detail on there, but it gives a lot of minutia about like air units needed to go in here, like what needs to be done. Add crushing pressure. But given what's going on, I would say that people are migrating to this island in order to start going down into the hole, because the hole is where all the resources are seemingly being, because the surface of this world is boiling. Occasionally. I wouldn't say it's always boiling. But the surface is slowly becoming barren for some reason. And I'm just going to put this guy here. And we have, you know, a weird Leviathan thing that they didn't even tell me what it's supposed to be. Only that it's covered in veins, and it likes killing things that it thinks is ugly or doesn't like. No relation. So, okay, we have that. Then we have the giant sea map, which I might even have bigger than that. Now, here's the fun. Tyrants. The flood caused all previous kingdoms and civilizations to collapse, and in the many generations since, they have been almost lost from memory. In each sea, the power vacuum was filled by individuals who rose and claimed dominance over a cluster of islands. Each controls their own island, a prison island, and a small army. They each also have subjugated the population of productive farming island, as the game progresses. The tyrant will gather more and more power and shape the world towards their will. They ultimately lead to a cataclysmic event unless the players intervene. So, as we were talking about before, the cataclysm is everybody just gives up on the surface and tries to go down, and then something fails and we get rapture, but everybody dies when the thing fails. So this will be Tyrant's Island. So he has all the farmland, and he's funneling all the people to here to make a move down into the hole. That's one thing on there. But first off, let me roll. What is the Tyrant's Soldiers? Which is a D8. The person who made this likes using weird systems. They're weird numbers. Anyways, 1. Psionic Inquisition. Mutated skin, long insect legs hanging from their lips, gems set into their throats, ornate royal purple robes and gloves. Can cast the ESP spell on anyone they touch, reading their minds. Dispatched by the tyrant as investigators. Islands' populations fear their powers. Okay, let's see if that comes more into play. I don't know why they put it first, besides the fact that it's a smaller table, and the next one is literally a D30. Nobody expects the Psionic Inquisition. Also, I just had a realization that this is effectively reverse Dark Sun. And that's kind of funny. Anyways, I need a D30. I might actually have a D30. Let me check. It might only go up to a D24. Nope, I have a D30. My Dungeon Crawl dice set has a D30 as well as a D24. So let's roll for part 1. 4. 13. So what is this tyrant's name? $4.24. The Frozen Magistrate. I'm spelling that wrong, aren't I? Nope, I'm actually not. Oops, I just lost the page. All is lost. Anyways, get back to this. Now let's roll again for their agenda. 12. Believes the flood came from a now hollow center of the earth and wishes to drill a hole that will drain the oceans away. Oh, this works perfectly. So this is all coming up Millhouse. The tyrant believes that the water was expelled from the hollow earth, and that if only they could drill down into it, they can drain the oceans and reclaim the land. Which is why he founded the island and is working on moving everyone down here into the hole so that they can slowly dig deeper until they breach the hollow earth and drain everything. That's working out perfectly. I don't believe they were put next to each other to have it happen like that, because there's no reason I should roll that, but anyways. Now, let's move on to things. Let me get back to that page. There's a lot more I can do. So, they have a few pre-made tyrants that have the agenda made. Where there is 9 steps that have to happen, and then like it just ends. 8 or 9 steps, and then it just like everything ends. Because something happened. One in here that I really like is somebody attempting to reassemble themselves from a god's body. And the Carrion King, where he gets... where he tries to rebuild God literally piece by piece. But that's neither here nor there. Okay. Tyrant base generation, which is a D20, I think. Yep, that's a D20. So the prison island. I'll have to pick one to be the prison island. The prison island is the Galleon Gulag. And I will say... probably... I might just cheat a little bit and say it would be the one that is the hardest to get to, but not come back from. Or the easiest to get to, but hardest to get back from. So, there'd be a small island over here that works with the trade winds. Just right over here. And we will call that the Galleon Gulag. That's what it was, right? Yep, the Galleon Gulag. Heck, it might not even be a full island. It might literally just be a reef and a bunch of boats that are moored there. And I kind of like that idea. Basically, the water world, you know, they have, there is some dirt below. They really just can't get to it, and they probably just anchored there. And this is just a flotilla of ships that are moored there and probably can't even, like, they're not even seaworthy. But because of the region is, where, like, they have the trade winds coming in, and that's about it. They don't have any currents. It's just dead water besides something that can bring more prisoners in. We'll just have a little anchor going off. And some useless jutting rocks that go really deep. That if anybody did try to come into there, they would probably add to the flotilla on accident. I think that sounds good. That sounds interesting. And we already picked the main island, but let us give it a name. 13. The Ivory Island. I guess these should be above. There we go. So this is Tyrant's Ireland. Now, what kind of throne does he have? 10. The Whale Skull Throne. I don't know how much that comes into anything, but it's kind of cool. I mean, it fits. Evil villain has a throne that's made of whale skull. Now, what defenses does he have on the island? 20. The sea 3 miles around the island is frozen. The ice flatlands are patrolled. Ooh, that's interesting because this is like a boiling sea and whatever. He is the okay. He is the Frozen magistrate. So it's called the Ivory Island because, you know, it's basically frozen. It has glaciers on it. It's one of the few places that is not subject to random boiling hazards going on. Yeah, this is all coming together, and there's no reason for it to do this. Gotta love when generators are... They have enough leeway to build off each other. So, the Frozen Magistrate has psionic inquisitors and has people patrolling. Because his island is not even an island. It's just the only landmass in a bunch of ice next to the hole. Okay. I like you. Now, on to island generation. It is important to note that the cataclysm shattered the world such that every island is self-contained and thus has its own microclimate. The boundaries between the seas and the microclimate is a visible geometric iridescent membrane. We're not doing the multi-sea thing right now, but once you pass through the membrane, the climate instantly changes. Inside the membrane, the island's ecosystem is... Oh, okay. So they're saying, like, basically... There's the large membrane, and then each one of these have their small one. Okay, sure. Once inside the membrane, the island's ecosystem is sealed like a terrarium. The sealed island's climates can have cycles with their own trapped clouds, winds, and rapidly changing patterns, but other times are simply static states unaffected by the outside world. Okay, one second. I'm just taking a look at some of this. They give 12 islands that should be populated. One is the Tyrant's Lair, the Tyrant's Prison, the Trade Hub, the Freshwater Island, the Cattle Farm, the Grain Farm, the Moving Island, the Mine, the Guild Island, the Fraction A Island, and the Fraction B, and the Rival Crew Base. So I guess I kind of have to go to 12. I'll just hand pick. I already got the main ones. This is obviously going to be the Trade Hub. And something should be, like, you know, down here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's have another one up here. Another one right here. 8, 9. 4 sod over there. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. There we go. So this is definitely going to be the Trade Hub because it's between everything. So I'll put a note there of the Trade Hub. Now then, we got the trade hub. We need to figure out where would the freshwater island be. Say it'd be a big one, so we'll say this is the freshwater island. Or at least group of them. The cattle farm. So I'll say that the cattle farm is, or the grain island is here, because it's very close to here and it has trade winds into that. Grain island. Give me a corner. 4. So I could say this is cattle island. Livestock. The moving island. A mobile island, see page 70. Let me take a quick look at that, because that's a little interesting. Okay, that's just random things on there, but we'll get to that in a bit. I'll figure out the moving island and put it on its own page instead of putting it down here, but the mine... Well, there's currently no reason to go up here, so I'm going to call this the mine. You get in on a trade wind and you leave on a current. Now, this is the trade hub. I'll say that this is a guild because it is about located next to the trade hub, but it gets access to the mine stuff coming in first. Now, what did it say? Choose one neutral aligned ecosystem. Secretive guild order. Blacksmiths, boat builders, or alchemists. Let's give a roll. What is our guild? Our guild is alchemists. They're an alky guild. Okay. Faction A and Faction B. They're at war with each other, so they probably shouldn't be right next to each other. I'll say that this is Faction A. And Faction B. Right in the middle is the Ivory Island, which they avoid like the plague, but has been slowly going down into things, and probably taking over all this. And then we're going to choose a rival... What do they call it? Crew? Yeah, crew. Because you gotta have rivals. So this is what the map is looking like. We got the Frozen Magistrate, who is slowly taking over all the resources and saying, no, the surface is doomed. We have to go deeper. Which he is only doing because he believes if you dig deep enough, you can drain the ocean. Because he has some, I guess, occult knowledge. Well, he has a bunch of psionics around him, and maybe some of them have had visions, and he keeps seeing that there is a hollow underground. And if you keep digging enough, maybe you can make a hole to drain the ocean. And then he can then rule over an actual place that's worth ruling. But he's going to get everybody killed, because they're going to screw up at some point, and the deep pressure is just going to crush their entire operation like a tin can. That's fun. Okay, on to the next part. So we can... a lot of more tables I could use. But first off... I'm taking a look at this. You have island morphology, island generation geology, island generation weather patterns, artificial islands and complexes. So let's do a bit of rolling for the Ivory Island, just so I could think about it a little bit. So our morphology, I'm going to say that it isn't a small island. Let's give it a... I'm going to roll twice to take the higher for the size. So 2, that's tiny, and 6, huge, 8 square miles. So we have 8 square miles of roughly triangular. I guess I'm going to have to edit that. 1 second. So go in. Let's make this more obviously triangular. In his frozen wasteland that somehow... Maybe he managed to create that. And that's why it's like this. He found some weird artifact that could freeze the ocean because everything's basically boiling on the surface. Okay, so we have that. Now, what type is it? Island geology. So give me a D10. Let's give that a roll. Says 2, which was a coral island. So it's not ivory because it's frozen. It's ivory because it's dead coral. That's a interesting thought. So how do I make that look? So, like, it has all these just dead tubes. Like, this was pulled off an ocean floor. It has all the corally bits. And it's all just white and dead. And that's what he's used. And that is purely what his island is made out of. And it's also frozen. So very interesting. I'm not going to go too deep into there, but enough for me to remember that this is supposed to be a coral island for our tyrant. Vegetation. I'm going to say it has no vegetation. Well, actually, let's just give it a roll. Maybe something interesting will happen. Coniferous woodland. No. No, I don't think so. Now, what's the weather patterns on here? So it gives a common, uncommon, and rare. I'll say 1 through 6 is common, 7 through 9 is uncommon, and 10 is rare. So we got an uncommon one. And its weather patterns are 3 sandstorms. Or, in this case, coral storms. So whatever brought this island up off the floor has really screwed up the weather. So let's pick this. So there's constant blowing around of all the dead coral and ice. Yeah, I kind of like it as this just utterly oppressive place you don't want to go to. And it all just fits with it being like, literally, yeah, it's an ivory island because it's full of dead coral. Okay, then we have artificial islands and complexes. We'll get to that later. Magic geology. Yeah, I guess technically you're supposed to roll all of these. really weird to me. Okay, ocean surface. What's on the ocean surface? Buoyant, glowing algae platforms. So 3 miles out, it is, you know, iced up, but on the edge, you have fluorescent algae. Just growing in these mats. So they're leaning, this entire book is very much leaning into the pulpy, weird fiction. Where stuff doesn't have to make sense, but you roll with it. Which is kind of what we've gotten away from a lot, because we really try to make our fiction make sense, which doesn't make sense. Unless you really want to just make everyday life fiction, which is about the only thing, but even then that doesn't make sense. Whoops. This is possibly the only place that there are these large algae mats because the ocean is temperate around it. And they probably also, if you try to come in, they get a little bit of bioluminescence when you touch them. So, you know, you get the little blue things, and then people can actually see you coming in. So it's a warning of when you approach. Okay, what is in the sky? Oh wait, no, I guess there's only supposed to be one. I'll go with the ocean surface. Okay, magical geology. Let me just check. Walk or water, rock, or fire? Rock. 2. Ridges form from the backs of giant insects, shifting and moving around. Oh, that's interesting. So not only is there dead coral, there's some sort of bugs living under it, like giant ones, that occasionally shift around. And if you remember earlier, it said that the psionic soldiers have, or Inquisition, have like insect legs coming off their lips. So there's something a little connected there. There's a lot going on. Island generation. Okay, what is your basic resource? I need the Holy D30. 4. Rope fiber. I don't know where they get the rope fiber from. Maybe they actually harvest these insects and they're able to do something with them. Maybe there is some sort of fibrous coral they're able to harvest because it's literally 8 miles, or 8 acres of it. Uncommon, 24. Hemp fields, or advanced hemp fields. So there must be some sort of, when they brought it up, I'm not going to say it's exactly hemp, but there's some seaweed that is able to live on the surface now that they're using for, like, fiber. And they're able to work with it. It's probably somewhere more in the middle of the island. This is a good color for it. And they have to dry it out or do something weird with it. But, hey. And now for rare resource, which I don't think will fit at all given what we've had. 24. Bat guano saltpeter. I won't say it's exactly bat guano, but saltpeter seems like possibly they got some sort of chemical that they could use for explosives that comes from this place. Maybe something to do with the coral, maybe something to just do with deposits that when this got brought up from the deep, that they found it here. Either way, very interesting little set of things that came in there. Okay, island enhancements. Enchantments. This is a D20. Oh, there's the D20. 2. An animated hedge prevents anyone from reaching the interior. The plants push intruders away or attempt to strangle them with vines when they are cut. So, a bit of green here. I'll say that, like, around the center of the island, where the whale skull throne is, there is a strange hedge maze, or something of that nature. That is the final line of defense before you actually get into what is effectively his castle. Let me put that here. It's very out of place, and it's very deadly. It's also probably better to live at than, you know, living in a hellscape of dead coral. So I could see him taking time to make sure that something other than bleached white dead coral is around him. And then being in, you know, evil, he literally makes the Aeon Flux grass. So we got the Ivory Island done. So, you know, just 15 more. That said, I'll probably quit within after an hour. Make this just a 2-hour stream. Just something to go through this book, because otherwise I wouldn't. Now, there was something. There's more stuff on here, but I'm not going to roll all of that for this, because this is the Tyrant's Island. I want to pick something for the other things. Okay, let's go to the trade hub. Now, let's go back to the beginning of this. Give it a roll on the island. I don't know what they mean by island map locations. 1 maximum up to 2. I'm guessing this is just how many islands are involved in this. So let's give that a roll. 6. So this is basically an archipelago, because it's up to 15. So let's just reflect that a little bit. I'll say that we have like some main island here and then a bunch of smaller ones. And will be reflected on in a moment. The morphology, the size of the island. 6, it's huge. Or at least the chain is huge of all these things, so you probably have little factions that actually go on and feud with each other, and possibly have little wars going on, because... Oops, I should just actually use the delete tool. And I think it'd be funny if there was a island with an island in it. Very rare, but it's funny to me. Probably a very minor source of fresh water, which they don't actually get out of there. Roughly circular, already have that. Topology. Undulating small hills. Okay. What type of island is this? I need a D10. I have a D10. A coral island. funny because, you know, that's all coral, but I would... Hello there. So this is a coral island. I guess it would have been, you know, covered with dirt at some point, but we'll go with that. Its sand type is light brown. I don't know that word, sand. And its vegetation is Arctic, no vegetation. So this is purely here and occupied because of all the trade winds. But otherwise, it's about as cold. It's, I wouldn't say it's ice covered. I would say that it is just doesn't have any precipitation. Like, nothing really grows here. It's just dirt. You go there to occupy it, and you only live off of stuff you can trade for. So now that we have that, what is its weather pattern? A common one. Dry and frequent rain. Okay. Island and complexes. Okay, let's let me roll. So ocean surface and sand piled into a series of cofferdams. What is a cofferdam? A cofferdam is an enclosure built with a body of water to allow the enclosed area to be pumped out or drained. This pumping creates a dry working environment so that work can be carried out safely. Interesting. So what would that mean in this case? So I guess that around the edges they have actually made a kind of defense to insulate themselves even further, that you basically have to go into one of these cofferdams to enter their island system. Otherwise, you have to walk across there, and this is all a sea-based thing, so you're probably not supplied, and you don't want to leave your ship, you know, a day's or a couple hours walk. And if you're going to do trade, that's not going to be quite good for you. So they're fortified, which is probably the only reason that the Tyrant King has not come over, the Frozen Magistrate has not come over and taken it over, is that it's annoyingly fortified enough that you could probably do something, but you probably don't want to. So they got all these levees and whatnot that they have set up to fill or be pumped out so that it's like dry and you can't get in with your warships and all that. Okay. Magical geology. Let's give that a roll. Let's see what it is. Water. 3. Levitating lagoon. So, okay, that kind of actually fits in. So they have like a magic lagoon that literally floats around, that they probably have water draw up into, and they can dump into these cofferdams to fill them up. That sounds like a ticket. So there's just this floating, literal tons of water in the air for some reason, that can fill or probably drain these. And then it just continues around by whatever organizing body is on the trade hub. Okay. Now, basic resources. Now, I think I'll have to roll a few times because it basically said nothing grows here. 17. Giant spider nest. So I guess native to this island are giant spiders. And the people will, sell spider silk because, hey, that seems like a good in post-apocalyptic times. I can't really make a spider because I don't have enough pixels, but we'll get the leg count right on one side. There. Just imagine it's 8. I guess the spiders there mostly feed off the bugs that don't die there because there isn't enough to live on. They actually have timber. So maybe they have some very slow growing trees that or very short trees, I would say, that take forever to grow, but they can harvest them. And in the world where there isn't much, the tree that takes 20 years to grow one canoe is probably better than nothing. So while there isn't much vegetation, there's fields of these 5-foot trees in various places. And what's their rare resource? 21. Mammoth ivory. So I think there's a boneyard that they keep hidden that has, the mammoth skulls. Seems legit. Let me rethink. So let's do the skull first then. Actually, a mammoth skull would be like this because it has to have a hole for the trunk. So actually, hidden on the island somewhere is a mammoth graveyard that has, before the world exploded, and they have access to the ivory, which is what they originally used to trade and build up this place along with the wood and some spider silk. They use that as a luxury resource in order to get a bunch of money in to work on the rest. And now they have a little fortified island with a lagoon that travels around, raising and lowering their locks to let ships in. Seems legit. Seems silly, but that's exactly what it's supposed to generate. Now, what enhancements do you have? Enchantments. 18. The island pulls ships into its own maritime dimension. A graveyard of empty ships lies vacant from those who got stuck here. Any direction a crew sails, they will quickly find themselves back at the island. Okay, I can actually work with that. So they know how to get out of here, but anyone who comes in and doesn't is stuck. It's kind of, oh, I forgot what it's called. The Sargasso Sea, where things just kind of arrive. So not only does it pull stuff in, if you come near it, you just end up at it. And then they probably charge you to leave. but it also pulls in from other dimensions or other places, just random ships and stuff. And that is where a lot of its wealth comes from, and why they're so fortified, because they have to deal with so much people coming through. And either they push them out because they don't want to deal with them, or they charge them to leave. And that's what makes it it is the trade hub. You don't want to deal with them unless you're ready to pay, but you can get anything here. Okay, that was an interesting bunch of rolls. Do they have anything? I'm not going to roll populations on there. Trade hub. Okay. There's actual pages or pages for trade hub. I'm not going to roll fish. So the island's name. Let's roll that. 18. The Artisan's Atoll. I guess we can get rid of this. Okay. And it has, who are they controlled by? 2, a trade boss. Okay. And what is the... Oh, actually, this is one of the ones where you're not supposed to roll multiple times. I think so. But I'll go with that. A trade boss, but the Artisan's Atoll. Artisans with the last knowledge of various skills scattered among many islands received identical messages in bottles with a map to come to this island. The island became a melting pot of skills, and occasionally new messages in bottles arrived. Nobody knows where they come from, but each note becomes more urgent. So somebody is really puppeting this place but doesn't want to be known and just sends out messages in a bottle. Interesting. So a D10 for more details. Is this one I can roll? Okay, this is one that I don't have to care about order. So, the town signia of the flag, vine-crossed mass, and sails grown from skulls. And what is the guardian of this place? A swarm of carnivorous fairies who fly out over the water to eat the crews of enemy ships. I mean, they literally have a floating lagoon. Imagining that they have cannibal fairies on demand isn't a far stretch. What is their current crisis? Growing tensions and infighting due to a witch hunt for tyrant spies among the trade hub's population. Now, that makes sense given that, like, well, they literally have psionic powers and they mind read. How am I going to put fairies on here? Boop. Good enough. Yeah, that's kind of a wild one. Cannibal fairies. They have a swarm of them, and they have a deal with them to go and eat people they don't like. I mean, Fae. They probably also help with the floating lagoon that goes around and changes the levees. Man, this is truly a bunch of rolls. So anyways, I'm not going to go into the deep things on here. Sorry. Now then, do they have the guild generator on here? Or is there a guild generator? Let's see. Because that would be the next one I want to move to, is doing the guild island, which is the alchemist island. And then they have stuff for the factions, which I will try to do, and I'll wrap this up. Page 73. The guild. Okay, they don't have anything on the guild. So I'm just going to roll up the island real quick, and then I will move on to Faction A and Faction B and see why they are fighting. So how many islands are involved in this? Up to 16, so a bunch again. What is the size? Tiny, so they're all a bunch of little islands. And it's shaped like a star. And elevated tall cliffs, flat top. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to say the Guild Islands. It's not so much a star as a couple of what effectively are just pillars in the middle of the ocean that make a star shape. So we have that, and the top of them are flat. And only the couple ones in the middle actually have some population on them. But these things are like, they jut out of the water. You're not getting into them very easily. So very fortified. Very good place for the alchemists to live. So I don't know if the island type is going to give me anything on there. Volcanic island. Actually, I forget what these are called, but there is something that deals with volcanic areas that make like the basalt pillars. But I'm just going to also include over here some smoke from an active underwater volcano that is like in the middle of this. What kind of sand do you have? Brown feldspathic sand? Okay. What kind of vegetation? Which I doubt any. Deciduous tree woodland. Okay. So on the tops of these, you have trees, just like it is a forest. Every one of these has some amount of trees on it. Like the main islands are probably paradise, given the setting and how it's going. Probably faster just to put in a little bit of this and then draw the trunks. Also, excuse me for 1 second. Okay, nothing to worry about. Oop. May hear some construction outside. Okay, where was I? I was rolling vegetation and onto weather patterns. Say it's common. Foggy. Okay, that's interesting. That's a good color for fog. So this place is just covered, which makes it absolutely dangerous with all this just constant fog rolling in and out. Because, once again, none of the islands are actually reasonably close to the water. They're all jutting out on these giant pillars. And you also have to deal with the fact that in the center of it is a volcano that is spewing out and probably causing any ship that goes over it to, you know, sink. I forget what the effect is, but basically you don't want bubbles in the ocean, because the water density is not going to keep your ship floating. I would also assume that the alchemists may have some part of this, because, hey, they're alchemists. They're always doing weird stuff. Okay, so we have all this weird fog going on. And it must be a real sight to come in on the ocean and you see like just this fog covered base and just maybe like a quarter of a mile to a mile of just stone coming out of the ground with like all these trees on top of it. Probably don't want to get in. There's probably a bunch of like jagged rocks everywhere too. That going in with the fog would just tear your ship apart. So the alchemists probably only see who they want to see, or who they tell the safe way to get into their system, which actually is pretty easy to, or end up here, because you have the trade winds, both of them going into here and leaving here, that go over to the trade hub, where if you tick them off, you'll be eaten by cannibal fairies, or human eating fairies. I guess it wouldn't be cannibalism, but anyways, what artificial islands and complexes are going on? Let's roll. And in the sky there is a platforms built on the top of giant spider webs. Oh, okay. I don't know if I'll be able to draw it well enough, but the islands are actually connected by giant spider webs. And there's maybe some structures on them. This means also they have a spider that can build across all this, or something of that nature. Man, I would also like say that some of this some of these generators, even though they're meant for this setting, you could really use them outside of here. I mean, it's somewhat wacky and maybe a little focused on what would you say? On the whole water world aspect of things, but some of them are easily transplanted, like the magic stuff here. Or not the magic, the uncommon structures that aren't water-based. Yeah, that is. It gets weirder the more you go on. Like, so the artificial island and complexes, you have ocean, surface, sky, and deep sea. And I'm just rolling off of one of them and then rolling in there. Anyways, magic geology. Let's see. Fire. Well, it is a volcano. Lunar hot springs will remove curses from players if they bathe here on the full moon. Also, it's an alchemist thing, so that makes sense. So probably on the central island, they have literal geothermal vents coming up that they use. Anyway, the resources. 30. I need a D30 for this. 21. Copper ore. Somewhere in those rocks they have copper ore. Okay. 19. Advanced. Wild boar. Interesting. And they have some wild horses. I assume on some of these bigger islands they have, like, you know, maybe a breeding population that's on the edge of collapse, because these are some tiny islands, but still, there's enough to go on. Okay. Interesting. Island enchantments. 1. Oh, okay. The island pulls ships from water onto its sands with unknown force. A crystal in the island interior must be shattered before the ships are released back into the water. So they control a crystal. We'll just put it right here. That not only, if you try coming in here, you'll be dealing with the fog. So on top of that, and not wrecking yourself, they have a system that will prevent you from leaving, or worse yet, crashing into the rocks. If they turn it, if they keep it on. I'll say they know how to toggle it, but you could break in case of emergency. That they will, you come in, they see you, they don't like you, they turn this on, you crash into one small little island and cannot for the life of you get your ship off, and you basically just starve or have to deal with them as one of their defenses. So that is the Guild Island. Now, maybe I only get one faction done, but I am going to get a faction done. Actually, you know, for giggles... Oh, wait. There's some trade shops in there, but I'm going to roll... I'm going to roll on the population table. Who are these people? 8. Okay, a paranoid family of 5 lives in a bunker at the center of the island. They have set up traps all over the island. They have not talked to a soul in decades. And that kind of does work. It says they want basic food and supplies, but they are the guild, so I will say they are paranoid. There's like only 5 of them. And this place is a death trap to enter, but they do trade with the outside world very sparingly and for very specific things. And there's only about 5 of them. won't say they're a family, but maybe some of them are related. But they are an alchemist, a group of alchemists that know their stuff and live on a death trap. That works. Now for Faction A, which is over here, next to the mine. But first, let's generate their island. So, how many islands are on your island? Up to 10. How big are your islands? Huge. What is the shape of your islands? Long linear line. Topography? Half flat, half mountainous. Okay, I can work with that. So over here on Faction A, we have a bunch of islands in a line. That are like dragon's teeth. That just jut out of there and are huge. But you have a few in the middle that are like actually you might be able to do something with. And we'll see if they have any vegetation on them for me to put on it. There's a few more, but I don't want to draw it all. Okay, what type? 2. Another coral island. I'm going to say no on that and just go like this is just volcanic from there. But what type of sand is on there? 3. Brown. Any vegetation? Desert cacti. So on some of these inner islands, it is more like desert. Because these are also big too, remember. And we got a few cactuses and maybe some trees. We have cactus farms. I'll say, like over here, we probably have the trees. Pathetic, but still growing. Okay. What other weirdness is going to come up? What kind of weather do you have? Normal. Ice and sleet. So probably rare because you have to keep the deserts, or this area just doesn't get it. You have the occasional ice storm that just frosts everything. These are probably protected by, well, the trade or the wind is going this way, so this is all protect. Well, actually, that's so in the real world, deserts generally pop up near mountains because the wind breaks and eats all the precipitation, and then you just have desert afterwards. So this would make sense if we have like these giant jutting islands, and then we have like little desert islands in the middle, and that they have. That this gets all the water and gets some weird scraggly trees, and then this gets the desert. Okay. Now for artificial islands and complexes. What do we get? We get ocean surface. Fungi structures built on top of giant diving bell spider air bubbles. So out in the ocean, there are these just weird fungus patches on top of like these bubbles. How am I going to draw that? Whoops. There we go. And a little. Now, what they're for, who knows? And who knows if the giant deeps or the giant water diving spiders are out there still. But yeah, you come by and you just see a raft of weird fungal structures. Big enough for a person to live in. Okay, magic geology. Water, rock, or fire? Rock. 6. Gravitational anomaly cliffs can be walked on vertically as if they were a flat surface. So these things you can just walk straight up. Interesting. And what sort of resources go on? D30, please come to me. 13. Fresh fruit. Probably the desert fruit. Let's put a little on there. Advanced. 29. Fresh water and salmon. So you could take the ice from up here and melt it. And I don't know about the salmon. I'll say you can get fresh water up here. It's not the main one. The main one is down there. And what's the rare one? 6. Unless we want to say like there's a whole river system and the salmon just like come into it. Like a little thing and then you go up here and then like, okay, I guess that sort of works. Anyway, number 6 for the rare. Musical instruments, because they have, I guess, a special type of wood and their rocks are like weird and they can make some sort of drums out of them probably. They're weird gravitational ones. So, okay. Island enchantments. 20. Oh, okay. Giant diving bell spiders have constructed a magical tent-like web over this island. It extends down from the central high point at the island's top and anchored beneath the waves. The webs will slice any substance that passes through it into small pieces, including ships. There's a lot of spiders going on. So we'll say like the main island, there's like from here, there's like almost imperceivable monofilament spider threads. And that's what protects the place. That's where they go out to. Also fits in with the fact that they have the diving bubbles out there. Now, on to the whole faction one, which I need to find the page again. Page 79. What is this faction? Title. Okay, this is 2d20s. 5... 9. The Order of the Beyond. Okay. Their hideout is 8. The cubic court. And their goal is find out how the world was flooded and reverse it, as one would expect. Now then, they are rich in 2. Cannons and gunpowder. Interesting. Saltpeter came from these guys right now. But maybe they found some stash somewhere. So they can actually put cannons on ships. And they have a secret weapon of giant spiders? No, okay. An orb of scrying that can look at a new island every week. So they have a lot of information. Their headquarters is absolutely guarded by monofilament spiderweb that just wrecks any ship that comes through it. So they could probably do some tricks, like if you try coming up, they could just zone you out, and like you end up hitting a current that only they know about, and you go through the spiderweb and it shreds your ship. As well as having all the guns. Okay, faction generation, organization structure. This is a D10. 1. Stable, enjoying a golden era. And their structure is 7. Union of egotists, a small group of individualists that are operating together due to overlapping self-interest. So I would say that this is kind of it's poised to always collapse because there are a bunch of people that they work together. That's it. They have no overarching. They want to solve the problem. Oh, well, actually they're next to the mine, so that's probably where they get all the gunpowder, but they don't have any, besides the fact that they're working towards the same goal, they don't share ideologies, so this is quite literally the wacky group of misfits that somehow are working. Anything else to roll on there? Faction leaders. Okay. 10. 3. They cheated the elections to gain power and always had an arcane construct guardian with them for protection. Born into slavery, plans to blow up all the shipbuilding yards. Probably to also, also to cement their rule. Okay, that's a real thing. Source of conflict between factions. Let's roll that. 8. Caught an undercover spy in the ranks from a rival faction. So, we don't know who these people are yet, but they had a spy all the way up here that got caught. And now they really want blood because these are a bunch of egotists that want to save the world, and they felt they've been slighted by these people. Okay, that works. Factions and random rumors. Let's give this a roll for giggles. Then we can make the other faction. 11. Having found the eye of a dead god on the seafloor, they are figuring out how to bring it back online. While they may have already brought it back online because they're able to see an island every week and scry it. I won't generate NPCs, but we have a bunch of NPC tables for this. Now, let us go back down to the other faction. Faction B, which is on the bad side of Faction A. What kind of island do they live on? Sorry, my throat's going a little bit, but should be enough to finish this off. As I drop the dice. So basically 2 islands that are large, that are in a spiral pattern, that are half flat, half mountainous, so kind of looking like the other guys. So, we'll say there's some like little minor atoll, like a reef or like stuff that is just jutting out. Because I like the idea of everything's kind of treacherous. So, then you have the other side. And some minor useless islands trailing off in kind of a spiral. Okay, what type of island are you? Sandbar. Let me change your color. What kind of sand? Green olivine sand. Okay, strange, but okay. And what type of vegetation has popped up on these? Warm mangrove swamp. It's probably go over more than just the land itself because it's mangrove. But let me just put in... I don't know what the top of these trees look like. But they probably go out into the water because mangroves don't give a care. And this is a bunch of sand. So that makes some sense. Okay, and then like this for the wood. What I know about mangroves is that they have, like, the roots that keep them off the ground. But effectively, this is all swamp area on a sandbar island. And I would assume that like some of these also like grow out into the water, making the island look bigger than it actually is. But this island has a lot of wood, probably a lot of good wood. I don't know if mangrove wood is good for ships, but I assume it's pretty waterproof. Okay, so we have that. What kind of weather do you have? Uncommon water, or weather. Endless night. The sun never rises. So I am just going to make a circle on the underlayer. Select it. Make it like that. Don't know how the trees are surviving. Maybe they work off moonlight. Anyway, artificial islands. Deep sea, okay. 1. Rusted metal-filled algae-filled complexes with air pumps leading into the surface above. So, offshore here, there is like in the deep, they have some sort of complexes on the sea floor, or like raised up like deep sea operations, which actually might be part of the tyrants because, you know, he really wants to go underwater. And they have things that pump air down from the surface. Interesting. Okay, magic geology. Fire. Sentient bushfires burns slowly, endlessly moving about the island. It can shrink itself to fit inside a small bottle. So I guess that's your light situation, is that we have sentient bushfires. That slowly go about the island. I mean, it doesn't seem any weirder than what else has been going on with giant diving bell spiders. Probably why everybody moved off the island into this. Okay, resources. Oh, I need a D30 for this. 12. Peat. Well, it is a swamp. 17. Fresh water. Maybe there's some filtration that goes on in here. 25. Abundant fruit forests. I guess there's some sort of fruiting vine maybe or something that makes, like, you know, not apples. That they can pick off the trees when they're avoiding the sentient bushfires. Okay, island enchantments. 12. Intense heat rises rapidly as this island is approached, up to nearly lethal levels, and they subside once you get very close. So, we already established that there's just random heat problems that, like, are boiling the surface and all that. This one just has it concentrated around the edge. And then it falls into night, or into perpetual night, which somehow, as I was saying before, I think it's because of the sun. That is, like, throwing radiation everywhere. And somehow this place has magic darkness, which allows it to avoid that. Okay, that fits. Now then, let's get back to the faction page, which was on, like, 75. 78. 78. Yep, it is. 79. D20. This is 16. 9. The sect. Or the sect of the withered. Well, I mean, you are in the dark perpetually, and you have sentient fires going on, so I guess that's a fitting name. You do live in a swamp, my dudes. Okay. What is your hideout name? Your hideout is in a hollowed skull of a dead god. I guess that's what's going on down here. 1 second. That's the thing. Okay, and their goal is... ideologically opposed to healing magic. Sabotages its use. So I'm guessing that this is a god that doesn't like healing magic, and they just kind of adopted that because they're living in its skull. Now, let's see. 9. They're rich in livestock, which is probably coming from this island over here. And they're able to just keep it alive because, well, the sentient brush fires are sentient brush fires. They move very slowly. So that probably creates a lot of grazing for them. And their secret weapon is a 12-foot flesh golem assembled from rotting fish entrails. I guess it's a necromancer's thing. And they don't consider undeath to be, bad. So we'll have the little fish intestine golem out here. They could probably just summon this on demand, and there's more than one. Let's pick like this. Yeah, there we go. That's a little big. Okay. What is the state of the anti-healing faction? Regrouping after a loss. So I'm guessing that they saw that the spy, they carried out some things, and problems happened for them. Now, what is their structure? Horizontal power structure. Conscious decision-making and collectivist ideology. So you have individualists versus collectivists, an age-old struggle. One side's possibly necromancers, the other side has cannons. Who will win? That was the last one I rolled for the faction. 7. Is a relative of the tyrant. Fueled by jealousy, they want to take the tyrant's position and rule over the flooded world. Secretly funds groups hostile to the tyrant. So they're opposed to the tyrant, but only because they're a relative. So they probably funnel a bunch of money into the trade over here. Pretty much. So they probably funnel a lot of money and power into the trade thing, because the trade thing also opposes them. And they probably bankroll a lot of other islands. Say, okay, so why are they fighting against Faction A, the Order of the Beyond? 16, or what? Nope, that should be a 10, not a 20. Betrayal of a contract formed between the factions long ago. So we know that the current owner of this doesn't like ships and we're slaves. So they've been probably trying to dismantle like a bunch of ship trade and all that. And that got into something they were working with. So they were pissed off and they planted a spy. The spy got killed. And then they did something against them. Probably funded a bunch of healing or whatever. Or more or less probably killed somebody. Yeah, okay. I can see how that lines up. And what about the random rumors? 11. Having found... Oh, wait. Wait. Oh, no. They found the eye of the god. And they sent that over. Like, they had a contract with them. Like, hey, can we work together? You know all this stuff about scrying. And that probably works with this god's eye. And they kept the eye to go about things, and that's what triggered off all the problems between them, because these guys are crawling around on the seafloor. They're living in the head of a dead god, but these guys took the eye, or otherwise instead, because they had like the resources or magic or whatever, they had artifacts. They had scrying to figure out what they need to do to get the dead god's eye to become an artifact. And they got it to work, but won't give it back. So, yeah, okay. That works out. And now they have like a war that is really drawn out because the only way they can get to each other is like they have to go to the one place that screws with everybody trying to leave it to get over here. Okay. So we have all that. Now then, I guess I will do the rival crew base if there is actually some stuff to roll on that. Let me see. Page 99. Okay, I can generate a low-level crew, but first let's generate their island. I'm getting rather efficient at it, because I skip over the stuff I don't care about. So, okay, how many pieces of the island? It's a bunch of stuff. How big are the pieces? Huge again. Let's not go with huge. Okay, tiny. What's the shape? Crescent moon. What's the topology? Flat. So, not the biggest, but a bunch of small islands making a crescent. Okay, so we have that. What type of island is this? 2. Coral Island. Okay. We got a lot of those. I mean, it's to be expected. Volcanic black sand. So let's go with this purple here because we can't use black. And what type of vegetation has grown out of this at some places? Arctic. No vegetation. So literally dead island. Now then, what kind of weather do you have? Common. Endlessly overcast. So you got a bunch of clouds. Okay, what sort of artificial stuff do you have going on? Okay, we're going with sky. Let me actually roll that, because that didn't roll. 4. We already have platforms built by spiders. Houses and walkways built on giant trees grown from the ocean. So while the island is pretty much dead, we have a bizarre sort of tree growing out of the ocean. It's kind of like a fungi world tree going on here that has some houses in it. $36, $25. Okay. Interesting. Magic geology. Fire. Haunted, ever-burning green bonfires. Bonfire raises all those who die on the island as ghouls. So nobody goes on the islands because you'll become, because it's got a bunch of ghouls. Very strange. Okay. Now, I don't think they have a lot of resources, but I'll still roll in the tables. And discard what doesn't fit. Flint? Sure, you have a bunch of stone. 2. Abundant mushrooms. As I said before, I think this thing's actually technically fungal, so maybe there's some things on there as well. 6. Musical instruments. Well, they are living in a giant tree. They're basically elves. Island enchantments. 19. A stone circle rises above the waves, encircling the island. All attempts and acts of violence inside the stones will be stopped by an unknown force. So technically, if you die here, you turn into a ghoul, but you don't eat anyone else. So I guess this place isn't too bad off. Oh, I need to, let me go a few back. Interesting. Now, let's get on to the, whoops. Page 99 to generate a low-level crew that is the rivals of the player characters. Crew generation 1 of 4. The ship name. The Leech. The flag. Oh wait, no, let's take a look. The Leech. Okay, yeah, this is all connected to each other. Their flag is a drop of blood, a large, dark, fleshy vessel that undulates and breathes. Crew can be seen as silhouettes through its membranes. So they literally are in a living ship. Let's get this like little purple thing. It looks like this. Like they probably have like fleshy sails. That catch the wind. Now we're Planescape. Okay, 1 second. There we go. Now then, crew so we have the ship, now we have the crew. Okay, this one I can roll individually, they don't all link to each other. So this is a d20 as well. 1, 3, long has been forgotten. Long forgotten, has been. What is their secret weapon? Amber cannonballs with living arcane parasites inside. Well, I mean, like, it's probably literally their ship's eggs. Let's be honest. Ship culture. 19. A psychic mastermind captain secretly controls the crew. It's an illusion that appears to be acting as individuals. So it's literally one guy. Okay. And he's probably just fallen on rough times because he doesn't know what to do anymore. The ship type. We already know what the ship type is. It's... Well, let's roll to see if I can get any more details. Large modified raft. Giant fungal ship. Nah, I'll go if it's a giant leech. Okay, the captain. 7. A giant praying mantis with a human crew. It's kind of contradicting what you had before. Well, I guess that's the illusion he puts on him, that he's a psychic that he's a mantis that terrifies the crew. So, Dark Sun's calling. State of the crew. 14. Develop the delusion that they are the only people still alive. Everyone else is an illusion. Which is funny considering. What ship upgrades do they have? A shield sphere. So they have, you know... a magic repulsion field of some sort going on. I'd have to look it up, but I assume it's an actual bit of... equipment they can have. Okay, what's the current cargo on board? 3 tons of iron ore. Their current mission is a heist to break an important person out of the prison island. And their specialists on board, animal surgeons specializing in treating animals while they are being transported at sea, that they probably actually have trying to keep their leech ship alive because he's falling on hard times. And then back in the end of this book, they have a bunch of generating stuff for creatures. But yeah, this has been a interesting run of generating this world. Well, I could run some stuff in this. I think we're pretty much at time, but we've generated an interesting little world that has... Actually, can I make that a different... Yeah, let's make that a different color. We'll make it this gray. Because I'll probably post this. So, we got a tyrant that lives on basically a dead coral island in a palace of sorts that is surrounded by deadly vines. His island is also infested with some sort of parasite insects that live under the coral. There's some remnants of the sea floor that they use to make hemp, and they have like glowing algae along the edges, and they want to go down into the bottom of the world and drain out the oceans, and they're going to make everybody do it. He has a little gulag that is literally just a bunch of ships moored and stuck in this area that if you try to go into to save anyone, will probably wreck your ship and just become more pieces of the prison. And then we have the most screwed up trade place that just like all the ships can't leave unless they get helped out. They have a bunch of flooding little levees and dams to only allow ships to come in to do trade, and they probably charge them to leave as well. They have some sort of ferry-controlled lagoon that floats around and raises or lowers the water. They have giant spiders. They have a mammoth graveyard. They have small crappy trees, but trees nonetheless. And as defense, they have fairies that will go out and eat the people on the ships. Right next to them is the crew's base, who live in a tree with ghouls all about the islands because of green fire, but no violence happens because they're surrounded by these strange magic runes. And it's actually like one in a couple guys that just have enough magic to make it seem like they have a crew, but otherwise control it with illusions. Because the ship is alive, after all. It can maintain itself. Hopefully. I mean, it could be as dumb as the Lex. And then up here, you have like 5 guys that do this alchemist stuff on their weird volcanic area that has a bunch of mists, that has all these rocks, and then has giant spider webs connecting everything, and they could get people to be stuck on the rocks forever. And then over here, you have the Order of the Beyond, which which have all the guns, and have like diving bell spiders with monofilament thread that shred ships when they don't stray from the death of cannons, who is at a war with the Sect of the Withered, which are like necromancers that hate healing magic, that have a fish guts golem, and live inside the head of a dead god at the bottom of the ocean, and are really ticked off that they stole the god's eye that they're trying to get online, and that these people now just, like, they're trying to figure out how to save the world, and they think they can do it, and are like looking at islands through the god's eye in order to figure out what happened to the world and how they could fix it. So this is a really wacky kind of, it's bordering on gonzo, but I would actually say this is more the historic pulp fiction sort of thing that goes on, that's been fleshed out by the Wraith setting book, and I think it's golden. You could generate an island in, like, before a session and get like a bunch of weird stuff in here. I haven't even touched the NPC section, but this is enough to go with for, like, you have your crew and you're going about and doing stuff, and you have something going on that is going to happen that you need to stop. Like, what you need to do when setting this up is like have the 8 stages of your tyrant doing the thing, and like what they can do to stop it or unite against the tyrant. And then, like, your campaign's over at that point, but it's been a fun campaign because you had to deal with all this stuff. And then you also have the Leviathan, which is like skinless and like kills everything that thinks it's ugly going around, being a problem as well. There's just so much that you could dig into on this. But yeah, very good book. I wish it had a little bit more on... It has a lot on the island, but I don't think a lot of that is useful. Like, you have fish population and stuff, but then you have a lot of things that conflict between, like, hey, this island, it's completely barren, but now you have vegetation and trade resources on it. That's a little weird, and I wish there was something to like fix that off more. Like, we could have had here's the vegetation or resources for a barren island. Here's the vegetation or the resources for lush islands. But I know that would like add like a few more pages to it. But otherwise, I like everything I saw in here, though. And you could go as fine as detail as you want, down to fish population, what the NPCs believe ended the world, which I didn't get into, and like what's on there. Though some of them is a little wacky, and like, as I said, I tried to fit the family of 5 to the guild, and it does work, but yeah. Yeah, that was a fun little thing. Don't know if I will do anything more with this, but yeah, the Wraith by... It doesn't have it on the title, which is weird. By the Lazy Litch, who currently had another finished Kickstarter campaign, which is a dark fantasy psionic battle royale, as they put it. And I can't wait to see what tables they come out with. But yeah, it works. We have a generated thing. You know, actually, now that I have this set up, can I put you behind? Yeah, I think this possibly will work more in the future if it wasn't covering up the... Where are you? There we go. It has a lot of stuff to work with. Like, this is set up to be how old school RPGs were played, where you don't have a plan. Like, it does have something in there, because that's sort of a new thing, but you don't have a plan. You generate up a new area, your characters do things, and you make crap up of why they're connected to things, and it goes from there. And, like, you generate along the way, it's like, oh, we have this one occurring thing that we keep rolling. Oh, clearly it's something big, and then the game master, like, you know, plots in the background this new faction that the players decide is actually a thing, but wasn't a thing until the players decided it. But this gives enough that, like, modern players can work with, because we want to have a little more plot. And, like, hey, we have this tyrant. We're going to stop the tyrant. And that's all your thing is based around, and every single island you come across is a wacky little microcosm of all this that you can then weave into connecting to each other. And then you have the two factions that are fighting against each other, which gives another thing you can be involved with. And also, you know, the whole, like, the trade hub is always rebelling against the tyrant. So that's somebody you get to work with to do stuff, and they get connected to all the other things. And then you have, like, the little prison that you get to rescue people from, because clearly that stuff's going to be on there. And you're supposed to have a clock of the tyrant actually going about taking over all the islands and doing stuff. And then you have your rivals, which should be trying to steal your job that you're currently trying to do. Which may be from the guild, or maybe from the factions, or maybe from whatever. And then you have a Leviathan going around and wrecking stuff and, like, making interesting things happen as the tyrant tries to end the world, basically. Very, very interesting. I like it. I want to see more books like this, because I want to roll more wacky tables and have stuff. And this is very set up to be... this is very set up for what this setting is. And I like that more than the generalized stuff, because you kind of make porridge with the general stuff. You need to have a little spice. And while you can have, like, the random things, they seem out of place. But with this one, it's all connected. Like, technically there's a lot of spider webs going on, and that just seems to be a quirk of the system, but it ties stuff together. And then everything is based off the tyrant doing stuff, so you can have people opposing the tyrant. Or what went on with this, which is the leader of the sect of the Withered is actually a relative of the tyrant, and they just want to rule the world. And they see that their, like, cousin is doing basically that, so they want to overthrow him and take his place. That's neat. Then you have, like, weird stuff like, hey, the guy that used to be a slave wants to basically just get rid of boats. They don't want to deal with boats anymore. Like, let's stop all this trade crap going on and just live on our islands. Like, screw the rest of the world. They made the slave trade, so let's get rid of that. Just, there needs to be a... I forget the guy who said it, but these sandbox generators should have an implicit but not explicit world going on. Like, they will never generate the world, but they're all drawing from the same well, and they'll have inadvertently have connections to each other because of that. It's just not like the kitchen sink. A good set of generators should feed off each other in some way. And this one, well, it's very much, hey, we have this wacky kind of totally not dark sun but water going on. And we have actually, I'll go through them because they had some interesting tyrants that are pre-generated in here. Like the one I was talking about before was the Carrion King, and his whole process is that he wants to bring back, he knows that there's a god going on, and he wants to put them all back together. And when the gods put back together, he unfloods the world, but now it's under this single god who's going to be controlling everything. But the Carrion King doesn't care. He's saving the world, which is a very interesting thing going on with this, is that I think like all the tyrants, or like a good chunk of them, are trying to save the world, and they just don't care about the consequences of getting to that point. Like another one is the Trident Queen, which the Trident Queen is the rightful heir to the Sapphire Throne in the Coral Court of the Sea Elves. Her parents were assassinated by unknown force when she was young, but even as a child, she quickly gained respect of the people by acting as a competent leader. Her ambitions are limitless. She wishes to conquer and unite every island to bring into her kingdom. Like, she wants to stop all the crap that's going on, and her attempt to centralize everything will lead to unintended consequences and doom the world. That's interesting. It's like people want. There are people who don't want, the whole like, oh, evil for evil's sake, and you got this. It's very rare that you see like villains that are basically heroes of their own story, but you constantly have them throughout this, and I like that. Though they do have some other things, like the Hidden Tyrant, which is basically a Lovecraftian god that when they wake up, everything becomes zombies. But that's like one of the exceptions going on, but it's very interesting. Like some other agendas. Enslave population to work on the grand vision of moving all the islands together to form a new unified nation continent. Is building an army of arcane constructs that when sent to manage and rule every island. Wants to maximize efficiency. Mandatory arcane surgery enchantments. Add a secret mind control spell. Is building a sentient hive network of brains in jars, smarter than any individual ruler. The brain will be worshipped as the architect and guide for the new world. Like, there is some good intentions with really bad results, which is very interesting. Like, you could just have them be just straight up tyrants, and they're poking a really bad thing that's going to explode on them. But yeah, I like it. I like everything in this book. I think some of the generation fights against each other more than it should. Like, it feels like you should stop at some point and just go like, yeah, this is what it is. And like, you might move into some of the other stuff. But yeah, with that, and my totally not the Mariner coat and tomato plant, I'm going to say that this was a nice little stream, and going to say next week, I have no idea what I'm doing. Probably going to be drawing of some sort. We'll see. But with that, I'm going to wish you a good time of day, and I will see you later. Also, I am going to post this online, and I don't know how I'm going to explain this utter mess of a map that that was generated. But until then, have a good time of day. And I guess I can chill on this now because I have up at the top, that is my Zwitter, where I take commissions and I post random stuff, usually birthdays and graduations, it seems like. But yes. With that, till next time.